Wednesday marks Women's Equality Day. It commemorates the day the 19th Amendment was officially proclaimed law, granting women in the United States the right to vote. More women than men voted in recent elections, and as Maya Rodriguez explains, the politics of gender could have a huge impact on the 2020 elections.
100 years after the 19th Amendment, eligible women voters could end up as the definitive political power in the 2020 elections.
Women are the most consistent, reliable voting bloc across the country, across the elections, year in and year out.
The numbers bear that out. According to the Pew Research Center, women have outnumbered men in the voting booth in every presidential election since 1984. Most recently, in 2016, 63% of eligible women voted versus 59% of men. And those numbers have implications for both the Democratic and Republican parties, says American University professor Jane Hall.
We are seeing a very striking acceleration of what has been a trend for some time, which is a gender gap between women voting for Democrats and men voting more for the Republican Party.
In the 2018 midterm elections, that gender gap became pronounced. Among registered voters, 50% of men identified as either Republican or leaning Republican, while 42% of men went with Democrats. That's a difference of 8%. But among women, that gap more than doubled. 56% of women identified as Democrats, but only 38% with Republicans, a gap of 18%. But how women choose to vote is more complex than just two political parties, says Howard University political science professor Dr. Keisha Middlemass.
We have to think about women as multiple blocks of voters. They are not a monolith.
Which the two presidential candidates seem to realize. President Trump says he's trying to appeal to what he calls suburban housewives, while Joe Biden picked a woman, California Senator Kamala Harris, as his running mate.
Just anecdotally, talking to a lot of women, representation matters. Seeing yourself there matters.
What impact it all has remains to be seen.
Women want policies. How are you going to make my life better? Well, that requires policy. But that whole idea of gendered politics is going to be very evident in getting out the vote.
In an election where gender could tip the balance of power one way or another. In Washington, D.C., I'm Maya Rodriguez.